a unit to take down ISIS.
So we must act now in order to bring this group down before they get more territory and the situation gets worse.
Sharing information is vital to fighting ISIS and terrorist organizations.
They are harming civilians, civilians are fleeing their homes, and they're putting thousands of women into the adult sex trade. This is genocide, delegates.
And what we want most is to not have a genocide. I cannot stress that enough.
I think there is very little doubt that some of the crimes committed by ISIS could constitute acts tantamount to genocide. I don't know if you guys notice that the language I'm using is very, very specific here. We will proceed into a 6-minute moderated caucus, 45-second speaking time on sharing intelligence. Delegate from the United Kingdom, as you propose this motion, would you like to speak first?
Yes, please.
You have the floor for 45 seconds.
The United Kingdom has highly acclaimed Tornado aircrafts that have been surveying the region and collecting intelligence and logistics on where the terrorists are.
Jordan is excited to be leading the way in this fight, seeing as we have intelligence that is second to none in the Middle East.
We must ask for Bashar and the Syrian government's consent before going in, on a country-by-country basis.
Surveillance? It means nothing if there's no action.
Just going militarily or using humanitarian aid or intelligence will not solve this. This must be a three-pronged approach.
We must act as soon as possible before the situation gets worse. Intelligence gathering is nice, but it is not the full picture.
We believe that we can instruct Iraq to help them deal with the ISIS problem without invading on any nation's national sovereignty.
Now the end goal is to, yes, give humanitarian aid to all civilians where they are able to use it to better their lives, to make them more healthy. But the problem is how we are to get this humanitarian aid to these civilians. And yes, ISIS has been taking humanitarian aid, and there needs to be an established unit in order to distribute this humanitarian aid.
The humanitarian aid delivered is directly to countries that have the most refugees, that is Jordan and also Turkey.
Teams that are giving out humanitarian aid will pull out immediately as soon as one of their members gets injured.
But these people are fighting against ISIS, working as a counter-terrorism organization, trying to promote peace in the region, and it is not fair to deny them of humanitarian and medical aid just because we think it might be a little bit inconvenient for ourselves.
I think we should only assist civilians where there is zero fighting left, areas that have been retaken from ISIS, so there are affected civilians there, but there is no danger of combat.
It would be more efficient for us to funnel aid to countries that are receiving refugees, such as Jordan and Turkey, in order to best resolve the humanitarian side of this issue.
If in the process of supplying aid to thousands upon thousands of civilians currently in strife, some aid goes to the wrong place, that is a risk we must take.
It is worth the risk. Out of the 28 aid packages sent by the United States to the affected area of Kobani, only one, possibly an unconfirmed, got into ISIS' hand.
Yes, aid goes to refugee camps. I think everyone agrees with that. But aid also goes to, for sure, civilians in retaken areas from ISIS where there is no longer violence.
But if you encourage everyone to leave, then who will be there to establish a stable government when ISIS is taken down?
The army of Iraq is not in a stable position right now, and the army of Iraq would be the main unit that distributes this aid.
Iraq and Syria do not have the capabilities to really distribute aid, and nor do we have the intelligence to successfully drop aid 100% of the time.
If the aid misses the drop zones, the bombers have the ability to take out that aid via missiles. Therefore, we can ensure when aid doesn't go to the specifically designated drop zones that civilians are at, that the aid can be destroyed.
Melissa Fleming, the director of the UNHCR, has made her stance very clear that we should be educating refugees, not just dropping aid to them.
Population does need to be educated and recognize that ISIS is a terrorist group.
I do think, though, the best way to show that ISIS is a terrorist organization is by treating them as such.
For these reasons, the United Kingdom believes that we should move straight into voting bloc.
People's Republic of China, how do you vote?
Yes.
Delegate from Luxembourg?
Yes.
Finally, United States.
Yes.
With a vote of 13 in favor, 0, none against, and 1 abstention, this becomes Resolution 1.1. Congratulations. This committee, in my opinion, in the opinion of the Secretary General, has an imperative to take some sort of action. It has already done so by adopting Resolution 1.1, which, by the authority of the Security Council, allows you to send in humanitarian aid to the refugees. That does not change the fact that within Iraq and within parts of Syria, there are gross atrocities being committed by the Islamic State.
Condemns the extreme violence against international aid workers and soldiers sent into Iraq and Syria to improve the conditions of the civilians in the region.
3. Urges the sharing of intelligence on ISIS between United Nations member nations to maximize the effectiveness of the international efforts in combating this threat and ensuring that this scale of extremist terrorist action never happens again.
Now, the question still stands. Who is going to protect these humanitarian aid workers? And I have received no answers from any delegates here.
A clause that reads, reiterates the need for economic restrictions detailed under Resolution 2170 to continue in order to stifle their funds and ability to function. And you have encouraged a series of rather strict restrictions on international travel, and you have encouraged member states and their governments to actually take action to restrict international travel in order to combat the threat of ISIS. And you've also encouraged sanctions once more against any individuals associated with ISIS. So what you've done there is you've basically re-emphasized the international sanctions regime against ISIS.
We need 10 votes to pass it, and we will get 10 votes.
It's not just a local issue, that it expands further than that.
If we look at Afghanistan, we look at Iraq, time and time again, the intervention of P5 nations with superior military causes more harm than good.
The United States, when they deposed this Saddam Hussein, that created a power vacuum which caused the ability for ISIS to be created. So this is completely a P5, especially the United States issue.
By not pledging any sort of support, the P5 seem to have abandoned the region and instead delegated the duty to other countries which may not have the ability to affect each civilian in the same way. The delegate of Jordan, the country that would be affected by this, and the country that would have to send their own troops, said that they don't have the resources for this.
The quickest and the most effective way to take care of this problem is not by sending in regional forces who are ill-equipped to deal with this threat. It is to send in Western powers who are trained and who are ready to deal with this threat to the region and to the world.
What we do not like to see is a watered-down resolution just for the sake of a harmonious voice between the P5.
Essentially, it just says, let's just have some countries do some stuff. There's no explanation as to what that is. It just says that the nations in the Levant and Middle Eastern region of the world provide military combat troops and equipment to fight ISIL. That could mean so many things.
Turkey, which has the second highest defense spending in NATO itself.
So Turkey does have the second highest defense spending, but the United States has more defense spending than the next 25 highest defense spending nations combined. So that's a silly excuse.
There needs to be an actual plan, per se, create a demilitarized zone on the border so that ISIS cannot go between Syria and Iraq. Now that is a plan.
The U.S. and P5 powers have been caught time and time again with sending foreign troops to places they shouldn't be, and we are not going to repeat the same mistakes.
You guys experienced today a very typical reaction. Somehow when the P5 get along, everyone else doesn't want to get along with them because they feel excluded, because the P5 does have a tendency, P5 countries do have a tendency to feel like as long as the five of us agree, everyone else will agree with us, and they just might not listen to the opinions of the other delegates. Jordan?
Motion for a 5-minute unmoderated caucus.
Special ops are outside of
like
that
a
realm
team
of
of
boots
20
on the
guys,
ground.
It didn't. It's not. I think it's
Should
classified as like people on the ground, but it's not classified as boots on the ground.
Special forces are already in Iraq taking action. We need to be focusing on new, innovative solutions.
Coordinating military action against ISIS. What kind of military action are you talking about?
You don't combat terrorism with tanks and traditional armies.
Yeah.
You combat it with intelligence and inclusion.
Exactly.
For example, the strike teams could find intel about perhaps ISIS movements, and then armies could move in with that intel and be much more effective and efficient than otherwise.
You will have training, you have spec ops training, you have tactical support, you have intel, that's all foreign. So basically there's no physical footprint from the foreign aid, and then let's say after a while that doesn't work, there needs to be a contingency plan.
Initiate a conference to discuss it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
Not actually saying let's do boots on the ground.
I mean, I like that, but I know that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Resolution is very comprehensive. It puts both the Iraqi army and intelligence forces in a coalition to fight ISIS with airstrikes.
This changes very little, but Jordan is still happy to see unified progress.
Does pass with 12 votes in favor, 3 against.
Yeah, definitely.
I said that in my comments for sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Excellent chair.
I enjoyed working with you guys.
Thank you.
It was really great.
And you're an excellent chair.
Thank you. I enjoyed chairing you guys. You guys are a lot of fun.